Hello again, it's Noob, and well, I'm really excited to show off this credit card pick set from, well, you might be able to see on the inscription there, Ouverture-Fine.com, who are a locksmith tool manufacturer distributor based in France. And this one is really cool because it was sent to me by the designer who I've met at LockCon in the Netherlands a couple of times, and that is you probably heard of him, Mr. Kokolitos. I'll probably pronounce that wrong. Who is an independent security researcher who works with Ouverture-Fine to make some of their products, and that's the details there. And you'll know some of his work if you've ever seen the Le Corbeau pick sets, which are very distinctive in their style. So this pick set is in stainless steel. It's 0.5 millimeters, which is, I believe, 19 thousandths of an inch, something like that anyway, all thereabouts. And it seems to be pretty well held together. You can see that there seems to be some kind of, I'm going to guess, etching or partial water jetting or something that cuts through the metal in places about halfway through, which should make this easier to break apart. So I'm going to look at each of the profiles, so that's the turning tools and the picks in turn. I'm not going to compare it to any other sets because I think you should really buy things based on their own merits, or not, should you wish. And whilst this was sent to me, I'm under no obligation to say anything positive or indeed negative about it. Okay, before we start going, like I said, I'll do every pick in turn. I'll probably do an overlay of me picking some locks as I talk about each pick in turn, but first we'll need to break this apart. Before I do though, just looking at the aesthetics of this, I really quite like it. It's got some nice features on there, so there are holes in the pick handles. Obviously that makes it easier to put these into like a key saver or on a keychain or something like that. It looks nice and smart. It feels really nice. So there's no sharp edges on here, which is nice. Some of the really cheap ones just seem to be, laser cut out roughly and then and left. These actually feel nice and smooth. I like that. What else about the looks? Nice layout as well, I think. Yeah, you've got 6 picks. It's quite a good amount for one of these credit card pick sets, the emergency pick sets. I can see here that there are the equivalent of 4 tension tools with a double-ended tension tool here and 2 single-ended L wrenches on both sides. Right, let's break this apart and see where we get to. So I don't know where to start really. Start at the end and work my way down. So here are all the items on the card laid out. I didn't know where to start really with this, but well, I decided I really wanted to start with this, the moustache pick. And I spoke to Mr. Kokolitos about how he designed this, what was this thinking behind it. And it turns out that this was designed through a point cloud simulation of the bittings of 5-pin locks. And I believe, and hopefully somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, that if you took the median pin heights of 5-pin locks, looked at the point cloud densities, and then mapped a profile to it that would best be able to replicate those positions, I guess is the best way to put it, then you end up with something like this. And this can be reversible. Let me show you one of the locks that I managed to pick with this, and the bitting on this is actually relatively, relatively good, I'd say. You got some lows, highs, lows again, and then some really highs at the end. I mean, that isn't a simple bitting on this lock. So I wasn't expecting it necessarily to do well, but hopefully you can see as I pick the lock that it didn't take particularly too long just to rake, well, let's say rock up and down using this pick. And it actually surprised me how effective it was, considering. Afterwards I did an overlay of the pick on the key, and I could see that about there I had a good rough approximation of the bitting, or at least enough that with the tolerances of the lock I could rock it open. At least that's what I think's happening. Another lock that I tried was maybe not as extreme a bitting, but still, you know, reasonable. I'd say typical, if not reasonable, typical of a 5-pin Euro cylinder, with security pins, of course. And again, I rock this open quite easily, and I think that it's somewhere like that position I must have got. Something like that there would have just been good enough to hit enough pins as I'm rocking this up and down gently to get that open. I thought that the design of the moustache pick was a little bit strange, a little bit funny. I thought it might have been a bit like a prince or a princess rake. In some ways it is. But yeah, I like the thinking behind it, and it certainly worked better than I thought it would. Moving on with slightly less detail into the pick, I think we all have seen one of these, a triple peak. Oddly on this, and it seems to be the way that this has been designed, you can see here that the first peak isn't quite as sharp as the other two. I don't know the reason behind that, but when I tried this out in one of my locks I often just use because it's got a reasonable bitting, it worked just as well as my other bow guitars that I use on the same lock. So yeah, it's just a very nice little triple peak. Next up we have this half diamond. Now, I don't know why I don't use half diamonds very much. They are the, I guess, the original hybrid pick. They rake pins and you can single pin pick with them. This is actually quite a nice short hook profile, and I found it to be just as effective as you'd expect a nice short hook profile to be. Yeah, so I mean, it's really nice. It's got a nice rounded tip. I've got nothing bad to say about this. One thing that did cross my mind, of course, when I was looking at these, is that 0.5 is actually a nice thickness for tighter European style keyways, and because these are 0.5 millimeters, they actually, you know, seem to glide through the locks. It's quite easy to maneuver them within the keyway, that's for sure. Before we go on to the hooks, let's have a look at these tension tools. And whenever you have one of these credit card pick sets, you never have enough tension tools. You just don't, and you never will. In fact, I don't think any picker could ever have enough tension tools. You know, to find that perfect one that fits your lock perfectly and has that nice position, nice tight fit, it's really hard to find one anyway, even if you have, like, you know, 100 tension tools. That being said, I quite like these ones. So you have obviously one with a narrow tip and then quite a wide tip there, and I use these tension tools in all the little video clips I'm going to show exclusively. I didn't use any external tension tools. And then you have this Z wrench, which is really good, and again you have quite a thick, maybe slightly thicker, there, see thicker width tension tool here and a slightly thinner one there. You'll also notice that the noses are extended. All of these well, these two tension tools are perfectly usable top and bottom of the keyway. What I think is happening with this one, in fact, I'm going to say that that it is what's happening, is that you could use it either all the way in or partially if you wanted a thinner tension tool. So it's essentially a step allowing you to have two different thicknesses. You could say then that this is 4 tension tools in one, which is kind of nice. That's what I think's happening, and that's what I'm going to say is happening, or at least that's the way I used it. So I suppose I am right even if I'm wrong, which is, as you would agree, the best way to be. Then you've got these little bits. Yeah, It's just part of the frame. So there's space that wasn't being used. So these are just structural elements. But it does make me wonder if somehow a couple of other tension tools could have been incorporated. I don't know. I'll have to look at the design and have a think about it. But it's I mean, so far it's pretty good in terms of what is on offer. But it's odd having these two structural components. I suppose maybe they had to be there. This short hook was really, really nice and just as effective as you'd expect any short hook to be. It's got a nice profile, it's got a nice sort of curve on it, it's got a nice reach, it feels comfortable in the hand. I'd say in many ways it's sort of the perfect profile for a short hook. Very, very nice. Really enjoyed using that one. Next up is this curved, what do you call it, a reach? I don't know. I did find it did give me some extra reach in a lock which had a bitting where I had to get behind the first pin, which was very, very low. But the keyway was wide enough for this reach pick to be able to go in there and be pretty effective. So what did I think to it? Yeah, I mean, I still don't really understand reach picks, but people really like them. I'd prefer to have a slightly more acute angle here, but that's my preference. It might not be yours. It certainly was very usable, so I can't really, knock it down any marks. It was a nice hook to use. And last but not least, something which looks like an offset hybrid of some kind. One of those. Really, what it's doing in this set is being a medium hook, and a very effective one. I think I used this in a standard Euro cylinder with a reasonable bitting. I found that this offset hybrid, this medium hook, if you will, worked really, really well on the lock that I used it in, and I imagine it would work well in any lock that could accommodate a medium hook. Really, really nice. So, what do I think to this set? I would say that for 6 profiles, it's a really good selection, like really good selection. I mean, you could always wish you had this profile or that profile or the other profile, but given that you have these profiles in a set, I don't think you can go too far wrong. You got some nice, rakes and hybrids. You got a nice set of profiles for hooks ranging from short to medium. There's something there for I would say the majority of any lock you're going to come by. The fact that they're 19 thousandths or 0.5 millimeter, it does actually mean that, especially in tighter keyways, they just glide in and out a lot more easily. It means you don't rub against the warding and lose feedback in that way. And I found the steel to be perfectly strong. And I can be a bit heavy-handed, and these are very fine, but I had no problems. And all of these that you see in front of you are the tools that I used to pick the locks that you see. Downsides. Well, whilst 0.5 millimeters is really, really good for lock picks, especially in this steel, which is clearly very good, it's maybe a tad too thin for tension tools. You could probably see that to get the tension on the locks, these were bending quite considerably, and they will deform under a small amount of use. That being said, this is an emergency pick set, and there are a lot of profiles here, so everything has to be a compromise. So you can't really have two thicknesses of steel. You can't have like 0.7 or 8 mils for the tension tools and then 0.5 for the picks. That just won't work. So I would say for the tension tools that the profiles and the thicknesses really good. I like the fact there's a lot of different ends and thicknesses and lengths that you can utilize in your lock. So there's always one which seems to work in a lock. But I do think that 0.5 is just still a little bit too thin. Not, mind you, that it would make too much of a difference if you're only using these occasionally. So what does this set you back? About €30 on the Ouverture-Fine site. And I have to say that in terms of credit card pick sets, this is very much up there with the best. It's really, really good. And certainly if you like these profiles, I would have no hesitation in saying you should go check it out. So thank you so much to Mr. Koklitos for sending me this. It was a really fun one to review, and I think it was a really, really well done pick set for sure. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did like this, please give the video a like, comment below. I always like to read your comments, and do consider subscribing if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you all next time.